What if I told you that everything you think you know about Islam was taught to you by people who never actually listened? What if the religion you were told to fear was never speaking in anger at all, but speaking in discipline, mercy, and purpose? I didn't grow up Muslim. I didn't grow up understanding Islam, but one day I stopped reacting and I started listening. And that changed everything. My name is Millie. I grew up in a world of cameras, scripts, interviews, and noise, a world where people talk about things far more than they ever talk to them. Islam was always one of those topics. It was always framed as strict, too conservative, too controlling, too intense, and, honestly, for a long time, I believed that story. But then I started asking a different question. Why are the most disciplined people I meet also the calmest? Why do people who pray 5 times a day seem more grounded than people who have everything? Why does a religion followed by over 1 billion people get reduced to headlines written in fear? So I did something rare in today's world. I went to the source. Not social media, not debates, not commentators. I listened to Muslims speak about why they believe, not just what they believe. And here's what I discovered. Islam is not obsessed with controlling others. Islam is obsessed with controlling yourself, your ego, your desires, your anger, your arrogance. In a culture that says, do whatever feels good, Islam quietly says, do what is right, even when it's hard. That hit me. Because discipline isn't oppression. Discipline is freedom. When Muslims pray, they don't escape reality. They return to it. 5 times a day, the world pauses. Not for fame, not for money, but for humility. Imagine that. No matter how rich you are, no matter how powerful, your forehead touches the ground. That's not weakness, that's strength. Islam doesn't teach blind faith. It teaches conscious accountability. You are responsible for your words, your intentions, your actions, even when no one is watching. And in a world obsessed with being seen, Islam teaches the beauty of being seen by God alone. I also learned something else. Islam doesn't reject women, it protects dignity. Long before modern conversations about respect, Islam spoke about consent, inheritance, education, and honor. Modesty in Islam isn't about hiding women, it's about refusing to turn them into products. That perspective is uncomfortable in a world that profits from exposure. And maybe that's why it's misunderstood. The more I listened, the more I realized, Islam doesn't promise an easy life. It promises a meaningful one. It doesn't say you'll always be happy. It says you'll never be alone. It doesn't remove struggle. It gives struggle purpose. Muslims don't believe success is fame. They believe success is character. They don't believe death is the end. They believe death is accountability. And that idea that life has moral weight is something our world is desperately missing. I'm not here to convert you. I'm not here to convince you. I'm here to say this: Islam deserves to be understood before it is judged. Because fear comes from ignorance, and hatred comes from distance. But understanding? Understanding comes from listening. Maybe Islam isn't the problem. Maybe the problem is that we've never allowed it to speak for itself. Maybe the faith you were told to fear was actually calling for balance, discipline, mercy, and truth. And maybe, just maybe, the world doesn't need louder opinions about Islam. It needs quieter, honest conversations. Because when you listen without fear, you don't lose yourself. You find clarity.